episode 41 of the NE Spahtens Show. On this episode, Sandy, Josh and I talk about Spartan Race's recent live Facebook coverage, Sandy's trip to Tough Mudder and Toughest and all the various tough variations, Ragnar Relay on Cape Cod, a bunch of other stuff. Enjoy the show! Welcome to the NE Spahtens Show. If this is your first time listening to the show, thanks for checking us out. We record roughly weekly, and you get to listen to myself, Paul Jones, Sandy Ree, and Josh Chase chat about the obstacle course racing scene. We also do interviews with race directors and business owners in the OCR space. I encourage you to go and check out all of our other episodes over on podcast.nespartans.com, and while you're there, subscribe to us. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, anywhere else you're going to find a podcast. You can also find us over on Facebook as the NE Spahtens Show, and we really encourage you to leave questions in the comments that we answer every episode. Now let's get on with the show. Spot quiz, Josh. What episode are we on?
We are on episode 41.
Oh!
Because 40 was recorded just yesterday and released today.
This afternoon. If you're listening to this on, well, we're recording this on Wednesday, so this afternoon.
And if you subscribe to the podcast on any number of platforms like I do, you get a nice handy-dandy pop-up notification on your mobile device, and you can listen to it on your commute home.
And yet somehow we still never know what episode we're on.
Hey, at least you guys can stream it on your way home. I have no aux jack in my car and no Sirius and no way to play it other than on my phone, which I'm not doing in the car.
You don't have any Bluetooth
connectivity?
No Bluetooth?
No, not in my car.
It's horrible. I'd have traded that in by now.
Well, just think, I get to do a road trip on Friday, and again, no aux jack, no no port, no Bluetooth, no nothing, and our friend Kevin, who normally brings his cool little thing that allows us to play through a radio station, is not with us, and I still haven't bought one of those things.
How long have you owned that car?
Well, it's a 2009. I've had it since 2010, so almost 7 years.
So 7 years, and you
hey,
still
my car
bought
before had a cassette deck, so I just shut it.
Who's in the car with you all the way to New Jersey?
At least I've never owned a car with an 8-track.
Oh,
both Sandy's musical taste and her technological advancements have been stuck in the 80s since, well, the 80s.
And in some cases, 70s.
70s in some cases. The Monkeys were the 70s, right? Or were they the 60s?
60s.
Okay. They didn't have aux jacks back in the 70s either.
No, they did not.
So where are you going this weekend, Sandy? That sounds like a good place to start.
All right. Well, I think it's just Stephen Russell and I are headed to Philly for one run of the Tough Mudder on Saturday, and then we're both signed up for Toughest. And actually, he's signed up for Tougher, so he's running the first heat of the day, so he can give me the lowdown on how Tougher goes. I'll probably do that in Loudon up here in New Hampshire. I'm not doing it this weekend. Not ahead of Toughest the night. Overnight, that night.
I'm not a Tough Mudder guy, and the naming still confuses me. Tough Mudder is the regular race on Saturday in the daytime, one lap and done.
Correct. Tougher is the timed first lap only.
Of the daytime race?
Of the daytime race.
Okay.
And Toughest is what there are 6 of, 4 in the US, 2 in the UK, I believe. And that's the 8-hour midnight to 8 a.m.
So you're
and then,
doing
of course, you have no confusion over World's Toughest,
Correct.
Which is in November.
So you're doing a normal daytime untimed casual fun lap. Steve
Correct.
is doing a competitive timed lap.
Correct.
And you're both going out at night for 8 hours.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, how are you going to approach that? Are you going to sleep in between your lap and your 8-hour overnight?
Probably, yes. That's the idea. We'll
staying
get
there
to
the
the
night
hotel
before?
Friday. We'll have
Okay.
the hotel Saturday, so we can go do whatever. Kind of sleep, nap, hang out, chill, whatever. And then we're keeping it for Saturday night rather than checking out, because that way Sunday before the 7-hour drive home, we can go shower.
That sounds like a fantastic idea.
So what time does Toughest start?
Starts at midnight, and it runs until 8 a.m.
And is that competitive?
Yes, if you choose to run it that way.
Okay, so you can do whatever you want.
Yes, if you manage to get 25 miles or more, that qualifies you for contender status at World's Toughest.
Okay.
Which I have zero interest in. So that's no big deal. For me, personally, Steven may think otherwise. I don't know. I can't speak for him. A lot of people are going for that 25 rank. And then, of course, you've got the elites who are going for the prize money.
So does everybody go out on the night lap with timing chips?
I believe so.
Okay. So it's up to you how you want to run that race. Got it.
Correct.
And
now,
they... Sorry, go ahead.
No,
you go.
No, you go.
So you say 25 miles to turn into a contender. So what's the lap distance for Toughest? Do we know?
Okay, the lap for Toughest is a 5 mile. And my understanding is that the first half of the night, they run one 5 mile loop. And then at some point during the night, I assume 4 a.m., they switch over to the other 5 mile loop, because the regular Tough Mudder is, of course, 10 miles. So you don't do the same 5 mile loop the entire night. It switches somewhere in between.
And this is not the first one they've done, right? This will be the second?
Third.
I
think they had last weekend. They had one.
How's it been received?
Did they have a UK one?
They had the I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
And it seems to be being received pretty well. Of course, you've got the elites you expect to be winning it.
Yeah.
And doing real well and making a good show of it.
Huh. I can't wait to hear how it goes. It sounds like a very difficult logistical nightmare for the race to switch courses midway, and that sounds difficult, but that sounds like a lot of fun.
It could be start at the beginning and run to the halfway point for the first half of the night, and it could be start at the halfway point and run to the end, or start at the end and go backwards to the halfway point. I don't know. I'm sure that the way that they can manipulate a course to go around, I'm sure they can figure out a way to make the halfway point near the festival area.
And then on the Sunday, they run the 5 mile Tough Mudder, right? The normal daytime 5 mile option for people who don't want to do the full 10.
If they want to, sometimes there will be a half, and sometimes there will be a half and a full. Okay. It all depends on the event that's happening. And I know that Philly has I'm pretty sure they have a half and a full on Sunday.
It strikes me as a really good way to maximize the weekend for a race that's at a venue for 2 days.
Absolutely.
To do a night race or some kind of night ops. I know Spartan's been doing it for a while with Hurricane Heats, but they're kind of a different beast. They don't really use the course so much. This strikes me as a really good way to capitalize and get basically as much race registration dollars out of the course as possible.
I agree.
Now, do you know how many people were doing it before? How many people will be doing it?
I do not. I could look up results from the previous two to see how many people finished, but I have no way of knowing for sure.
I have
not taken the time to do that.
No.
Because honestly, I don't care. But from the photographs, it looks like several hundred people.
See, that's fantastic, because it's kind of that balance, right? Are these several hundred people coming away from the daytime races, or are they a different kind of athlete who wouldn't be coming anyway? Are they cannibalizing their own market, or are they pulling in a brand new market? I mean, we will never know, but it's...
I'd be willing to bet a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Because you'll have people like me that are going to go and do a fun run on Saturday and then stay for the toughest overnight.
Yeah.
And then some who live closer may choose to do a Sunday event as well. For me, we've got a 6.5, 7 hour drive home. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
And then others, if you're super elite, you're not going to go out and run a fun lap on Saturday and tire yourself out or risk injury. So, they may be bringing some of the elites who are there for the prize money. And so I'd be willing to bet that they're really doing a good job of maximizing the events so that they can hit every different type of, because now they've got a competitive, now they've got the 8-hour endurance, now they've got the half for those who aren't interested in the full or feel for whatever reason that they're not capable of it, which I know is kind of a bogus thing. You may not be capable of winning it, but it's not about winning.
So let's touch on that for a moment, because you mentioned you're going on Saturday for a fun lap. Now, I know how I felt the day before my first Tough Mudder, back in the early days of OCR, before we really done a lot. So I know how people generally feel the day before this 10-mile brutal military obstacle course on a mountain, and here's Sandy coming on calling it a fun lap. So talk to those scared people and explain why you think it's a fun lap, and they may be petrified of their first Tough Mudder.
Well, being petrified comes from the unknown. Absolutely. And so if you don't know what to expect and you're not sure, of course you're going to be scared. I was scared the first time I did one.
How many will this be? You told me the other day, so actually, I know the answer.
I was thinking that I was going to have to wait till Vermont to get my 25, but Saturday during the day will be 24, and Saturday night for toughest will be 25.
25 Tough Mudders. 2,500 miles of Tough Mudder.
Sounds about right.
Ballpark.
Yes.
I don't think that math adds up.
Close enough.
I think 250.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's...
Hey, I wasn't even thinking. Guy.
He's a Brit. He's using the metric system.
Yeah. And as far as fun run, what I mean is I'm not going out to run it hard, run it fast. I'm going out to socialize. I'm going out to get the lay of the land. If that helps me with any kind of strategy for Saturday night, that's mostly why I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. So fun run just simply means not competitive to me.
Okay.
And sure, there are still obstacles. I can't do them by myself. There are some I still struggle with even with help. But I'll give everything a go.
Well, good luck.
Have a good time with it.
I can't wait to hear more about it.
That's why I really like Tough Mudder. It really still pushed that barrier of getting very much outside your comfort zone. Because if you look at like Spartan, you can get over an 8-foot wall, sure, right? And you might be afraid of coming down the other side or afraid you can't get up there, but an 8-foot wall is an 8-foot wall. At Tough Mudder, you are faced with fears. Electrocution, like drowning, like very real fears.
Not helping, Josh. Not helping.
Right. But I think it's that feeling that a lot of people still seek. It's, they want that test of their fears, and they want to be able to overcome those fears, and they want to be put in an uncomfortable position. And I think Tough Mudder does a really good job of pushing that edge, whereas Spartan is more about pushing the physical edge, right? How far can you physically push your body versus Tough Mudder? How far can you get over the mental hurdles of drowning yourself in ice cold buckets of water and, that kind of stuff.
And you still have the out. If you are absolutely flat out not going to do it, there's no shame. Tough Mudder does not shame you for walking past something.
They don't penalize
you. Shame yourself. They know that you shame yourself. So,
and not everybody will.
This is a rat hole. Let's go down it a little bit, because I was reading an article today, funnily enough on LinkedIn, that Joe DeSena posted, or somebody may have posted on behalf of him, where he was talking about how he takes a kettlebell with him everywhere. And by everywhere, he even means like international flights, business meetings, everywhere, right? And the whole premise is to, most likely, to be out of your comfort zone, to be uncomfortable, and that's what Spartan's mission is, and they've made no secret that their goal is to rip people off the couch and get them out of their comfort zone. And I think for your first one or two Spartans, you certainly feel that way. I mean, how often do you climb an 8-foot wall until you show up at a Spartan race? And so they do that, but Tough Mudder seems to keep doing it. Spartan, they do it the first time, but when you've done it for 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, it's really not outside your comfort zone anymore. Everything's pretty familiar.
True.
Switch over to Tough Mudder, and they seem to change it every year. Now, is that purely the obstacles? Is that their culture? Why does that happen? Why does Spartan get familiar and Tough Mudder doesn't?
Well, I think it's just the nature of how they've designed their obstacles. I think Tough Mudder is not about breaking you physically, and I think that's where Spartan is not gone wrong, but it leads them to a path where it's hard to keep up, right? So the only thing you can do with a bucket carry is make the bucket carry longer, right? You can make the bucket heavier, I guess, if you really want, but that's all you can do, right? So Tough Mudder can go multiple, different ways, whether it's, again, fear of water, fear of electrocution, fear of enclosed spaces, fear of enclosed spaces full of water that will electrocute you. So
I'm spotting a theme.
Right. There's so many different ways for Tough Mudder to be creative because they're only working with your mental hurdles, right? So there's a lot of different ways you can go with that. Where Spartan, you only have a physical limitation, and that's it. So I think they cater to different audiences. And when I was and it was my first Tough Mudder last year that we talked about, I asked most of the people there, I'm like, have you run any Spartan races? Nope, haven't run them, don't know what it's all about. So it's and the Spartan people are the same way, right? Spartan people run Spartans, Tough Mudder people run Tough Mudders, Savage Race people run Savage Races. Like they're religious to their entity, and it's what they enjoy, and it's what keeps them coming back. So I think Tough Mudder has a really unique mindset as a company of let's get feedback from the community, let's get an understanding of what they like, what they don't like, what works as an obstacle logistically, and then how can we one-up that. So they do their stuff well.
They do, and they really test stuff before they ever put it out on the field too.
Yes, they do a lot of market testing.
Yep.
Well, good luck. I'm excited to hear how it all goes.
I'm going into it very, very open-minded and non-competitively. I couldn't care less if I get 25 miles or not. I highly doubt that I would get 25 miles. I'm just not that strong of an endurance runner. And I fully expect that after the first lap or two, I'll be doing some of the penalties and taking a little bit of extra time. But I'm going out to experience it, to have a good time, and to do it for 8 hours, whatever that total may be. And watch Jonathan Albon run past me 7 times.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
During 8 hours. That actually will be very cool. I hope to be aware enough to cheer him and the other leaders on every time they pass me.
Yep. Interesting. All right. I'm excited to hear about it for the next podcast.
So what next? What are we talking about next? We had a whole agenda we spoke about before we started, and I think I'm forgetting about it already. We were going to talk about Spartan, New Jersey, that you two did? Did you both do it?
I did not.
No,
Josh, you did Spartan, New Jersey.
One. Let's take a step back before Spartan, New Jersey, and go to their first championship series event up in Seattle and talk about. I want to take 5 minutes and talk about how they presented themselves. I kind of covered this.
Can you remind me when that happened?
Yes. So
was that during the month of May, or was it during April?
No, it was in April.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in April.
Because the New Jersey Beast was April 29th, and I want to say it was either the 1 week or 2 weeks before that.
Yeah.
I think it was a week before. Yeah, because I did a live broadcast and kind of talked a little bit about it. But Spartan has made the move to live broadcast at least their NBC events, the championship series that they've dubbed. So Seattle was one of these championship series races, and they have decided to live broadcast the event, and not just somebody holding a phone at an obstacle saying, oh, we've got a runner coming through. They actually had a broadcast team. So they had David Magida, who's a former pro athlete, former Spartan pro. They had Amelia Boone, and they had Rose Wetzel. So 3 former Spartan pros and current Spartan pros doing play-by-play. They had drone coverage of certain obstacles. They had cameras at certain obstacle stations that they were cutting back and forth to. And you actually got to watch the leaders and everybody that followed him, obviously. But you got to see the leaders as they were going through the obstacles. And for this race, you had the big names. It was Ryan Atkins, it was Robert Killian, it was Hobie Call's first NBC race back, or his first big race back since being announced as part of the pro team. You had Ryan Kent, right? You had all these big names that you could see competing live and in real time, and it was done really well, I thought.
They nailed it.
If it's a trend that continues, I think it would be a huge win for Spartan to be able to involve the community. And I'll tell you, I can spoil it because it's weeks past at this point. Ryan Atkins was in the lead. Well, actually, Robert Killian was in the lead, and he had failed one obstacle. I forget, it wasn't televised at the time, but Ryan Atkins took the lead. Coming in the final mile, Spartan does what they always do. They pack a few obstacles into that last mile, and you're watching through the drone coverage Ryan Atkins crawling under the barbed wire. They had a rig at the very end that he zipped through, no issue, wins pretty handily. Robert Killian comes through in second place, fails the rig. Hobie Call comes right behind him, finishes the rig, actually made it look really easy. Gave Robert Killian a little pat on the back on the way by, said, I told him I was in his position multiple times before. So he finished in first place, or in second place rather. 3 out of the top 5 guys that finished actually failed the rig. Because the way they did it, it was the not the bender, that twisty.
Yeah, like the twist, like the helix thing.
Yeah, I forget the name of it. But the twisting kind of monkey bar setup that they had into the Herc hoist, I think, and then into a platinum rig. So it was a real physical grip test. But just the experience of being able to watch it live and watch the men finish live, then watch the elite women finish live. Broadcasters that were actual racers, right? They might need a little more experience in the whole broadcast, side by side and back and forth. But these are people that have raced before, are familiar with the race, are familiar with what goes into the training, what goes into the obstacles. So it was really well done, and I think a huge win for them and how they broadcast their events. And the downside and why I think we stopped watching these NBC shows, or at least myself, is one, the outcome already, and two, you're just crammed with commercial after commercial and elite coverage, and maybe the one special story. But this was a good win for them, I think, and a great way to watch the race.
It's the only time I've actually given a crap about watching the coverage. The NBCs I don't care for at all. Yeah, and you're right. The quality, the standards of the footage, they tracked the athletes. They went from obstacle to obstacle, and it was all part of the live stream. I mean, they clearly had NBC handling that piece, because that is really hard to pull off, and it's not something like an in-house media team would have been able to do. So kudos for them leveraging NBC and leveraging their gear and their expertise to do it. But the broadcasters themselves, I mean, Amelia and David were awesome. Rose is awesome anyway. So yeah, absolutely nailed it. It was exciting. It was interesting. It was current. And that's something that they sorely have needed. I hope they keep up. I wish they'd do it for more races. They won't. They'll only do it for the NBC races, but,
I wish they would do it for something like Tough Mudder. I think it'd be a perfect way to translate to the live space, is being able to follow 8 hours worth of laps, and we'll see. I think this is
where Spartan are probably pulling ahead of Tough Mudder, is in the TV side, because they've had a longer relationship with NBC, doing the show, so they're able to try these new things. I don't think Tough Mudder has a TV relationship necessarily. I mean, they've had a few things recorded at Tough Mudders, but not like a broadcast relationship. So
they have a partnership with CBS Sports, but they haven't necessarily realized it yet. Maybe that'll come to fruition this year.
Yeah, well, maybe. They need to start televising stuff first and figure out how to do the tracking and, the athlete chasing. They nailed it. This Spartan coverage was very professional. It was as good as anything else I've seen in sports, and I hope they continue.
Agreed.
So on to the actual race that we ran, and we can, or at least I ran, and we can talk about.
Yep.
So made the annual venture down to Mountain Creek, New Jersey, for their Beast/Ultra Beast weekend. And I'm going to tell you, first and foremost, there is a huge audience of people that have apparently moved on from the mindset of just the trifecta. I'll talk just mainly to the Ultra Beast.
Sure.
1,300 Ultra Beasters signed up for this event.
Oh, wow.
1,300. So if that tells you that people are getting maybe not complacent with the current list of events, but are looking to challenge themselves more and more, 1,300 Ultra Beasters. The bin drop area was it was overflowing. They actually had to make it bigger.
So I'm gonna ask the question: was it an easy Ultra Beast, and people saw it as an easy way to get a belt buckle?
Yes. Easy answer is yes. So I will say this: compared to last year, the course was easier. Less elevation, lower distance. It was only about 13.5 miles distance-wise. So you're talking 26 and change.
Per lap. Okay.
Yeah, per lap. So for the purists out there, not technically a real ultra because those are supposed to be 50 Ks, which is 30 miles, but Josh does not care and Josh's knees don't care. Josh has a belt buckle. But I'll say this, massive improvements in Spartans distance marking. They seem to be spot on with every mile was marked. They had them, and every single one was marked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way through 13. And people still make the stupid joke, oh, Spartan miles. Yeah. I found them spot on almost every single time.
Okay.
Very obstacle heavy. A couple new obstacles. So they had Olympus, which is I guess you could say formerly known as the tip of the spear. For those that know Battle Frog, it's that triangular wooden contraption with chains and holes and grips to hang on to. Failed it both times. So that was a tough one. They have a new one called the Bender, which is sort of an inverted metal bar contraption where you have to kind of get up and over. It's not like an inverted wall. It's inverted like ladder bars.
I've seen photos of that. How was it as an obstacle? Was it pretty straightforward, or was it actually harder than it looked?
As somebody who's 6'4" and can throw my legs over anything, it was rather easy for me, but I saw people obviously on the shorter side who struggled but still did it.
Throw your legs over anything. Got it.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So take that as what you will. We'll get to the innuendos when we talk Ragnar later. But, a couple really good bits about it. I thought, again, course markings were great. Water situation was on point. So a week before the event, they got the weather forecast saying it would be like 85 and sunny come noontime. So they went from having 4 water stations. They bumped it up to a total of, I think, 7. And they had a dedicated station for filling your hydration packs, which was almost exactly at the halfway mark of the race. I forget the guy's name now that I'm thinking of it. Jay Barnes, who's the kind of the Ultra Beast race director, I'll call him for lack of a better term, went out on Facebook and said, listen, don't show up here complaining that you don't have water. Don't show up and give my volunteers a hard time because you're not allowed to fill your pack. Here's where you can fill your pack. Bring your pack with you. Make sure you have hydration. Fill up 2 cups of water at every station and then fill your pack, at the dedicated station. Really well communicated. I didn't hear anybody complaining about water. So good on them for making sure that people knew what was expected of them and what was expected of Spartan before we get out there. Now the new complaint, because if people can't complain about water.
That was going to be my question, was what are they complaining about then?
The new complaint is not having access to porta potties on the course.
What?
So, people are...
That's a thing?
Are in the random, groups now saying that they weren't able to use the porta potties at the volunteer stations. And I'm going to try not to get into the TMI field here, but
but you will.
When you're out on the Ultra Beast course, you're eating food that you don't normally eat. You're drinking like these Nun tabs and whatnot. Right about mile 16, Josh went through some serious intestinal distress. Okay, I was asking every volunteer, "Can I use your porta potty?" And they said, "Nope, it's for volunteers only." And actually, Spartan actually zip tied them. And in order to get access to the porta potties, they had to send a race staff member over there to cut the zip tie and let the volunteers use it. Maybe a little heavy-handed, but
that's not new. I volunteered at Barry a couple of years back, and they would always put 2 porta potties out at a volunteer station. One was zip tied, and they would open one day, one the next day.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, if you start letting racers use the porta potties at the volunteer stations, that's going to make the volunteers' lives miserable because they're just going to be next to a disgusting, overused porta potty all day, and you're just going to create lines and backups. Part of the Ultra Beast experience is managing that, I think. Yeah, does a Josh crap in the woods? The answer is yes. So I consider that part of the experience. And sure, there's a discussion to be had about personal hygiene and all that stuff, but whatever. That's
let's not have that now.
You're wading through ponds of probably backed up sewage, for God's sakes. The last thing you need to worry about is taking a leak in the woods. Really enjoyed the event. Liked the course. I love the mountain in New Jersey. And actually, I saw somewhere today that Mountain Creek is filing for bankruptcy protection, I think. So that might change where Spartan goes to next year. I don't know if it's going to have any effect, but I saw it in a local news report. So,
well, that venue has got a weird history. Have you looked into its history? Because I haven't been there since it was a super, but it used to be called Action Park, I think it's called.
Well, there is an action park there still. So there's the ski mountains, and then there's a sports parkish type. They got water slides. They got those. A tubing hill, stuff like that.
If for those who don't know, go and look up Action Park, New Jersey. The Action Park that's there now is not the Action Park that was there before. I believe it was in the 80s. But there are videos of some of the water slides they put in, and they were nicknamed Traction Park because of how many ER visits people had when they went. And it was scarier than anything we've done there. Like water slides, like tubed enclosed water slides with loop-de-loops in them.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, and we actually, that was...
Oh yeah, way before we were there. But
or whatever, a while back, because isn't that where they did the Spartan race one year where we had the cliff jump?
Yeah, that was the old Action Park.
Yeah.
The crazy cliff jump. And I believe that park was then bought out by someone who was going to revamp the name, and I just assumed they were all part of the same facility. Guess not.
Yeah, and we did not venture over to that side of the mountain at all. So it was again a shorter course from last year, but it was tricky, difficult. It wasn't your traditional. There was no death march per se. Like there was a one at like mile 10. There was a hike up to the top of the hill that was not overly daunting, but there was a lot of up and downs, and I think the up and downs really take it out of you. So I finished. I beat my time from last year. It might not have been the most graceful finish. Did 210 burpees, which, if you know me, is not like me. So the new Spartan obstacles are much more grip intensive, and I'll need to work on that throughout this year. So got my second belt buckle. I am now 50-50 on my Ultra Beast attempt / completion rate. So, but that's where it might stay for a little while. So we're gonna see what happens this year. I might change things up. Yeah, it hurts a lot. So,
so let's talk about something that happened much more recently. So last weekend, we hit up Ragnar Relay. And if you've been following the podcast feed, it's been pretty Ragnar heavy. I just put out an interview with the Ragnar Trail race director, CC. I got to talk to Mike, who is the Ragnar Cape Cod race director. So a lot of Ragnar stuff going on, but we all just spent 2 days in a van with each other, pretty much, running close to 200 miles amongst us. And it was awesome. Again. You guys have fun?
We did it wrong because we were all in the same van, so we can't share multiple stories. We all know each other's stories.
No,
I was in the other van.
All right, so we have some stories to share, but
you're just used to being with me.
Yeah, hands down, loved it. I love Ragnar.
It's a lot of fun, and I do want to say that the Spahtens were there in force. I think we had 8 teams there. So if you think about it, 8 teams of 12, that's 96 people.
Yep, and that doesn't include Spartans on other teams. And to be fair, we are including Team Mike McNeil as a Spartans team there.
Right.
But yeah, 8 teams is a pretty good representation from the community, and I think some of those teams were teams of newbies or teams with new captains, people who had heard the buzz last year and decided they wanted in on that. And I actually just put up a blog post, which if you want to be a team captain next year and you've never done it before, or if you've never done Ragnar before, you should go and read, because there's some advice there on how to make it a good experience, because not everybody had a good experience. Maybe they came in with an incorrect expectation, or they didn't communicate properly, or they just generally weren't suited to being locked in a van for 2 days with 6 people, or 5 people. But
there was one poor van that started off as OCR rehab and became just the rehab group. They had some pretty interesting injuries happen along the way.
Yes,
I felt horrible for them. But they finished.
They did. In true Ragnar spirit, everybody went out and pitched in, and some people ran extra legs, some people backtracked, and we even had Stephen Blaze, poor guy, detached a muscle, and so his sister came to pick him up and take him to hospital and got roped into running like a 6 or 7 mile leg before she did so, because there was nobody else could run his leg at that point.
Well, while you're here,
yeah, because our van was going to go back, and we had 2 guys that were ready to run for him.
Yep. Yeah, I remember the text coming in saying, his sister's doing it. It's like, is his sister on the team? Nope, she just came to get him. Now she's running his leg. She can have him afterwards. Okay.
Which we probably shouldn't be publicizing.
Well, I mean, you get it done. But mostly no drama. Our team was a 4th-year team. It's my 3rd year on the team, but it's a 4-year team. So I think we've even though we have the details nailed down, thanks to our amazing captain, Jess, we still managed to botch an exchange. Which we
guys did. We didn't.
Yeah, we did.
Completely not our fault.
You know what? It was not our fault. There was no sign at the exchange, but other people had been there ahead of us. So okay, we left the runner for 20 minutes.
There was some room for improvement, I think, but
yes, there was.
Overall, an amazing experience, and you've probably heard us talk Ragnar on half a dozen podcasts, if not more. One of the premier events for the year, and I think it's indicated by the fact that our participation as a group continues to grow, and it's even better by the fact that Ragnar Trail is coming up in less than a month. So,
yes.
2 good back-to-back Ragnar events here in Massachusetts. If you're a bling whore,
there's more
like
than
I
that.
am,
There's more than that. There's Reach the Beach.
There's Reach the Beach up in New Hampshire.
That is a Ragnar event these days, but that is on the same weekend as Killington, so that's a really hard decision to make.
Unless you hate Killington, then it's a really easy decision to make. So.
Gotta admit, if it was any other weekend, I think it would be a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, so quick. Let's do a quick summary of your legs and what you liked about them. Paul, what did you run?
I ran a mid-4, a mid-5, and I think another mid-4. What did I like? I liked that they were mostly sensible hours. I didn't run crazy like 2 a.m. I ran at, I think my morning leg was, 9 o'clock. My second leg was like 8 p.m., maybe 9 p.m., and my morning leg even then was like 5 or 6 a.m. But that also meant that I had to run with headlamps for 2 of my legs, which running with a headlamp and a vest is a pain in the ass, and not a big fan of it. So I had to do that for 2 of them this year. But no, my legs were fairly easy, fairly straightforward. I wasn't in great running shape this year, so I was happy to take the easier ones this time.
What about you, Sandy?
I had 3.9, I think, 4.7, and then 3.3. And mine were at pretty decent times as well. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 11 o'clock at night, and then Saturday, I'm trying to remember now what time Saturday was at. Let's see, Saturday was at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:15. And it was good. I did not take into account that my legs would still be tired from the marathon 2 weeks prior. And,
well, they could have asked.
Well, I thought, 2 weeks, that's, yeah. No. But no, I had a great time. I can't complain a bit. And the only thing we had wrong in our van was we brought too much food.
We brought way too much stuff in general. Again, as much as I told everybody not to bring as much stuff, we brought way too much stuff.
Of course we did. And the wrong
bin
stuff.
system
Blueberry Pop-Tarts? Come on.
I went and bought 3 bin drawer cabinets. I'm sorry, the plastic cases that have 3 stacked drawers. I bought 2 of them, so everybody had their own bin. The cooler went on top, and then sleeping bags and such like that kind of filled in around the edges, and that worked remarkably well. That, along with bringing a recycling bin and a single trash bag, and we were golden.
Sandy would have hated being in our van.
She would have.
No.
Our van looks like a bomb went off. Your van would
not have looked like that had I been in that van, because I would have shamed you guys into not acting like complete fools and throwing your crap everywhere. They do not call me Mama Hen for nothing.
This is true.
I have earned that name and will continue to do so.
I like Van 1.
Van 1 was fun.
All right, so Josh, yours.
So mine were pretty easy mileage-wise. I had 5.55 pretty much, like 5.3, 5.5, 5.8, which actually turned into 6.1 when I looked at my GPS. My runs were not really sensible hours, so I was runner 1 this year after being runner 12 for the last 3 years. Huge fan of being runner number 1 over runner 12. We started as early as you possibly could. I started at 5 a.m. Actually, I started about 4:57 a.m. because I was in the van far too long, so I had to run from the van to the start line.
That's right.
From the van to the porta potty, then back to the start line, and then run.
And we got to the start line while he was in the porta potty, and they were paging us to get us to check in.
But we started on time. It's fine. So I'd like to point out that the New England Spahtens Ninjas were in first place for a good 3/4 of a mile.
Of this. I have video evidence of you turning the first corner going, "We're winning!"
So I had a 5 a.m. run that was about 5 miles and change. I had a 4 p.m. run along Cape Cod Canal, which was awesome, except for the headwind. I was running into like a 10-mile-an-hour headwind the entire time. And then I had a 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. Run through Harwich and Brewster on the rail trail, which was awesome. There was just nobody around. I got the occasional runner coming through, but really good time. And then finished, and I was done at 3 a.m. My run was over. I could shower, I could clean up, and then I could just cheer the team on and bring everybody home. So really cool way to experience Ragnar. I think I might be in for Van 1 again next year. We'll see. There's going to be a fight.
What was your darkest moment of the event? What was your worst moment?
Going into the third leg, so it's late at night. We're in a van. You're deciding whether or not you want to sleep. So Jess and I were just in the front seat of the van, and I decided not to sleep, but I was very curled up. I had my knees at my chest, and I was just sitting there kind of futzing about. Didn't realize that doing that for 2 hours is probably not good for your muscles. So got out of my third leg. My hamstring was not very happy at all. It tightened up halfway through that run. So, I slowed down significantly the second half of that, but, kept going through. What are you going to do? You're in the middle of the Cape Cod Rail Trail. You're not going to call for help. So, got through it, but it was a good time. So can't wait to be back, and I would love to do more. I would love to do a West Coast or western side of the U.S. Ragnar where you get to run through the desert or, get to see one of the great big sunsets in the West. I think that would be really cool to get a team to go out there and do it.
They're taking names for UK Ragnar.
Oh, I'm in.
Super tempted.
Oh, hands down,
White Cliffs of Dover to Brighton, 10-person team.
Wow.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. And we had great weather too. It was cool and a little chilly at times, but when you're running,
the weather was beautiful. Last year the weather was really hot. I had all kinds of chafing issues on the first leg, which made it miserable. Yeah. My low light this year was that last leg. Actually, I have two, but my last leg, my legs were really dead. and maybe the last quarter mile was really sandy banks coming onto the roads, and they were narrow roads. So when a van came past, you had to run in the sand. And I already had really heavy dead legs at that point, so that was really rough. But I think the worst was the night leg I ran. There was a really long, dark, straight stretch of roads, so no signage. I'm running along, I have my headphones in really low, just doing my own thing. And a woman catches up with me, and she has a van, some locals next to her, who were giving her a hard time. And she ran to caught up with me. So I yelled and told them to F off, and they drove off and did their thing, and we didn't see him again. But I was like, really? Giving her a hard time. She hung out for 10 minutes and then took off and finished and didn't see her again. But
sounded like they had a few of those scenarios where racers were getting harassed or verbally kind of.
There was a leg where apparently a drunk staggered out of the woods in front of the runners, and they put an edict saying run in pairs if you can. But I mean, I was glad I was there for this woman who, I have no idea who she was, but she stuck with me for a bit and took off on her own. She was clearly feeling okay about it, but what a bunch of jerks.
People suck.
People suck. How about you, Sandy? What was your low light? What was your darkest moment?
Didn't really have a darkest moment, which was good. I had heavy legs, especially the third leg.
Yep.
My first leg was my second leg felt great, and my third leg was blah. As far as the way I felt. But even then, it wasn't horrible. It just meant I walked some. We did have an interesting thing, though, so I'm going to kind of segue a little bit. We met our runner, runner 6, our 6th runner, so the 12th runner, at halfway point through one of his legs, and then we went to go to the exchange. And my navigator says, oh, you need to turn right here. Well, I was in the left-hand lane, and there was a car to the right of me, so turning there was not possible. Turns out the next turnaround point was 5 miles down the road. We get close to the end of the 5 miles where we're about to turn around, and we come across a runner running the same direction we're going. And so I said, guys, when we pass this guy, does he have a number on? And sure enough, he did. He had missed a turn and was 5 miles down the road going in the wrong direction. His run should have been over 4.5 miles before that, but he kept saying, well, I didn't see a sign, so I should be going the right way. And he says, I thought it was a little confusing that cars are going 70 miles an hour and there's no shoulder. It was like, man. You are nowhere near where you're supposed to be. So luckily, our missed turn found him. He didn't even know he was off. And we returned him to the exchange where he was able to catch up with the rest of his team. And so that was kind of a...
I know Ragnar rules say until you see a sign, keep running, but when you're on a highway and you're 5 miles further than you think you should be, you've probably gone the wrong way.
And there's no cones to delineate the lane of traffic from you. And the cars were just zooming by at 60 and 70 miles an hour. So it's luckily funny. We found him. Had we not missed our turn, we never would have seen the poor guy.
It's funny because you look at, at the start of my third leg, I looked at the map because I was going to be out there. Most of the time we didn't see a lot of runners. It was maybe only 5 or 6 runners that I came across while we were out there. So I looked at the map and, your mind is in a different place after you've been up for 24 hours and you're running on minimal food and mostly adrenaline. So I said, all right, I'm going to go to the end of this road. I'm going to take a left and I'm going to go to the rail trail and take a right. It's really easy. Sure enough, I run to the end. I take a left on the street and I saw a sign that I thought said straight. So I ran past it. And you start to question yourself. You're like, wait, did I really see that sign properly? And sure enough, there's no runners around me. So I had to double back like a quarter of a mile just to look at the sign that I was right about and continue on. So it's like when you're running on a dark road and you don't see anything, it's really difficult for you to just tell yourself, just keep going, I'll get there. So, I mean, I can see where the guy came from. It's pretty interesting.
For me, that was the weirdest one this year. We went out at 5 a.m., which was the first wave. And while we weren't quick runners, we weren't slow runners. So for Van 1 at least, when we were out running, we rarely saw people around us. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to, the exchanges are absolute packed and there's runners everywhere. And even on a quiet road, there's still a few people around. But I mean, with Ragnar, if you overtake somebody, that's called a kill. And if you get killed, somebody overtook you. And I'm used to, as a slow runner, seeing a lot of people pass me. My first 2 legs, a grand total of 3 people were on the road around me and passed me. I never saw anyone to overtake, and only 3 passed me. It wasn't until our last leg that people were around, and I overtook them, and they overtook me. So it was really weird being right at the very front like that for such a long time. Mm-hmm. Very, very weird.
It's definitely different, and that's, we start out at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And not a lot of teams are out then.
And then we were done really early, too. I mean, when we got to P-Town, we got there before even, the breakfast places had opened. We wandered down and got there as they were unlocking their door.
We were knocking on the door of the breakfast and then, coincidentally, the ice cream place next door. We went
Total
from having
coincidence.
Bloody Marys and mimosas to the huge honking breakfast to eating ice cream, all before 9:30 a.m.
We earned it, goddammit.
That's not Ragnar. Yeah, I don't know what it is. So,
and doing pyramids on the beach.
And did a sweet pyramid on the beach, of which we got absolutely no recognition for. Totally robbed.
God damn it, Ragnar.
But yeah, I can't wait for Trail. I really like Trail too, so I'm psyched about that come June.
Awesome. All right, so we're in for 2018.
Oh,
yes.
I'm in for 2018.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
So there were a couple other races this weekend, but unfortunately we were all at Ragnar and can't speak to them. But we had Tough Scramblers had an event and terrain race.
Mm-hmm.
I love those monkey medals.
Those monkey medals are pretty sweet.
There were a handful of people who did both, so kudos to them. They did 9 a.m. at Tough, got in the cars, and drove and did 1 p.m. at Terrain. I'm watching Terrain with interest because they're an OCR Worlds qualifier, and they've had some challenges with their elite waves and timing and enforcement and scorekeeping. So I'm interested to see if that's something they've fixed. I know OCR Worlds is working with them to try and fix it, but they've had a bit of flack from the community in the journeyman and in the age group and elite categories. So be interested to see how they handle that. Now next weekend, Bone Frog. So we obviously know, Sandy, you're not going to be there because you're down at Tough Mudder.
Yes.
I'm not registered to run it, but I don't know if I'm going out yet. I've got family here, and I don't know if I'm going to go to a race weekend while they're here or not. But Josh, you're running it, right?
Let's not talk about it.
Good. So Josh is running it. You're doing what? Elite, Tier 1?
I am actually foregoing Bone Frog
for the
running first time ever. It's really just a comfort level thing. My legs are not where I want them to be, and that's totally on me. I'm not injured. I don't feel like I'd be in a position to be successful. And when I went, I wanted to do the endurance event that they're doing, the multi-lap. However, I saw their map that they just released, and they have Stairs of Valhalla on every single lap I've had to do. So marching from the festival area all the way to the top of the mountain multiple times, maybe I don't feel so bad about that decision.
They have it on the sprint course, don't they? They've got another really steep hill that Norm is being credited for finding.
Yeah, they look to have 2 climbs that are not fun looking. And when I say fun looking, obviously I'm sure it's going to be very fun. Their obstacles look great. They've got the Overwater Traverse up again, I saw. They've got a handful of new obstacles on their map that I see. So I am going to be a little regretful in missing it, but I have to kind of set myself up for a more successful year. I did this to myself last year, and I just got so burnt out and so exhausted that I don't want to start too early, and I got to be fresh for trail. And so I'll be watching from the sideline this time, sadly, but I hope nothing but success to them. It looks like they've got a good amount of customers lined up to join it. They even sent out some communication saying show up minimum 90 minutes before your wave, because they already expect it to be a shit show, don't they? Yeah, they expect it to be very well attended, both runners and spectators alike. So they said parking was going to be a bit of a struggle. So take those words under consideration and get there early.
Plus, if you get there early, you get to park in the parking lot and not have to bus.
True.
Which is one of the reasons I'm not that jazzed about going, because I don't want to be there at 7 a.m. and I certainly don't want to bus in.
But it's going to be a great event. And I think Bone Frog is set up for huge success this year. They've got Norm helping out. They've got Coach Payne now as their announcer. They're having very successful events. They are proving time and time again that they can deliver quality obstacles. Did you see that last Bone Frog they did where Norm had him climbing like an observation tower, just stairs for like 30 stories?
Yes, I did. Yeah. And that was at Talladega, right? It was the Speedway.
Yeah. Yep. They just marched up the observation tower and then turned around and went right back down it. So,
I think they're a shining example, just like Savage Race, of organic growth, doing it right, not forcing everything, which is exactly where people like Superhero Scramble and Battle Frog have ultimately burst their bubbles. Is they push too fast, they push too hard, and game over.
Maybe I'll, if you've hung out and you've listened to the entire podcast thus far, let's put a call out there and say somebody who runs Bone Frog this weekend, maybe we have a special guest on when we record next time and they can give us the first-hand review of it.
That'd be great.
Sounds like a good place to stop. We've talked for an hour, so we won't do any questions this week. But good luck, Sandy.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys soon.
Oh, and I'd be remiss. I can't. We did skip one thing. Congratulations to our co-host Sandy and her husband Vince, who did complete their Big Sur Marathon. We didn't get a chance to give you a shout out, but we cheered you on beforehand, and they have some shiny new Big Sur medals that they completed the race successfully after a second attempt, at least for Vince.
Yep, that was my first ever.
Good on you guys. And hopefully you're recovered by now. But congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now we can end.
Hey, thanks for listening. Every episode, we're trying to bring you the latest news, the latest interviews, the latest opinions on OCR, especially as it affects New England, the New England Spartans. We can't do that without your feedback. We need to hear from you guys. You can reach out to us really easily via Facebook. We have a Facebook page for the NE Spahtens Show. We also have the Facebook page for NE Spahtens, and sending us a message through either of those will get to the right people. But we need to hear from you. What's working? What's not working? What do you enjoy? Again, I thank you for listening. These shows are a lot of fun to put together. We have, obviously, resources all over the place for you. Go to our website, nespartans.com. Hop in our Facebook group and join the community if you have not done so already. And once again, I thank you for spending some time with us.